the invocation of the cross, or the invocation of clausula rebus sextantiva. It's a writ of covenant, writ of deceit, writ of inquiry. Whereas a fundamental change of circumstances now present in pure speech in the role of liberal constructionist, beetle Jews, it is my desirous willful wish to settle this matter fiat justitia, ruat caelum, denique ultimatum, revirio verum, a fraud revealed is null and void, nunc pro tunc ab initio ad infinitum. Whereas my star contract, long-form birth certificate, is in custody with the Registrar General and given under seal of the General Registrar Office, Belfast, Northern Ireland, as claimed on the certified copy, my original copy has not been deposited in a lawful repository, namely the King's Exchequer at Westminster, as commanded by Richard I. It is my rightful duty to inform all parties, pirates, who have laid fraudulent claim to my stock, as per Black's Law, 9th edition, West. Stock, noun, 14th century. 1. The original progenitor of a family, a person from whom a family is descended, where inasmuch subrogation is present. I am the stock of my mother, father, self-evident in the blood ether in my lineage veins, mitochondrial DNA, delta 9 Lucifer, delta 10 mDNA, from my mother, which is prima facie evidence of my bloodline, RHA positive, where my father is a beneficiary of any all ascendants born to him. The father, semen, of any all born to him render him the beneficiary only, whereas the mother is fiduciary. From Black's Law. Ward of Admiralty, a seaman, so called because of the legal view that a seaman in contractual matters should be treated as a beneficiary and the other contracting party as fiduciary because of the perceived inequitability of their bargaining positions. Whereas a surname is assumed automatic at birth, inasmuch as my mother adopted my father's surname upon marriage, my living blood was kidnapped by Caesarean. I was taken from my natural jurisdiction to be willfully enslaved into another legal corporate dead jurisdiction against my free will choice. Jus presens, via deceptios, via wrongful assumpsit. Whereas the mistaken assumption has been made that I am assumed in some way to be related to the crown, I attest this to be untrue, where the blood in my veins is mine, self-evident as living ether, without which I would cease to be, given to me from my mother, father. My father is the beneficiary of me, and my mother is fiduciary, where I am not the beneficiary fiduciary to them. Nor do I claim any of their inheritance, where I am their inheritance, to which they are my heir, not the other way around. Based on this deceptios, my mother's father's inheritance as beneficiary fiduciary was stolen by those unlawfully claiming my mother's father's creation via deceptios. Furthermore, I lay no claim to my mother's father's estate where I may be mistakenly assumed to be beneficiary to any all titles, names, surnames, debts, liability, et al., etc., where I hereby invoke beneficium abstinendi ab initio ad infinitum nunc pro tunc. Beneficium, this is from Black's Law, guys, which is a privilege, remedy, or benefit granted by law, such as the beneficium abstinendi, privilege of abstaining, by which an heir could refuse to accept an inheritance and thereby avoid the accompanying debt. Beneficium abstinendi, privilege of abstaining, the right of an heir to refuse an inheritance and thus avoid liability for the testator's debts. Furthermore, my father's estate beneficiary status as well as my mother's fiduciary status has been willfully stolen via deceptios by any all parties, pirates, by any all use of them, or my private name, and birth vinta star date given to me, removed by way of kidnapping, shanghaiing me from my natural jurisdiction, where the creation of the short form birth certificate is prima facie evidence of this private to public fraud absolute, where my long form birth certificate continues to remain unlawful until it is placed in a lawful repository. Any all use of this name in the public will be fraud ab initio ad infinitum nunc pro tunc until lawfully deposited. The DTC at 55 Water Street is not a lawful repository, but is rather a customs bonding warehouse where true customs have been subrogated. Wade hearing, a criminal law, a pretrial hearing in which the defendant contests the validity of his or her out-of-court identification? If the court finds that the identification was tainted by unconstitutional methods, the prosecution cannot use the identification and must link the defendant to the crime by other means. United States versus Wade, 388, United States 218, 87, 1926. Star contract, or star, which is a noun from Latin starum, from Hebrew shitar, a writing or covenant. Historically, a Jewish contract, especially for release of an obligation, that Richard I declared to be invalid unless it was placed in a lawful repository, the largest being in the King's Exchequer at Westminster, also termed Stara. It's well known that before the banishment of the Jews under Edward I, their contracts and obligations were denominated in our ancient records, stara or stars, from a corruption of the Hebrew word shehe, a covenant. These stars, by ordinance of Richard I, were commanded to be enrolled and deposited in chests under 3 keys in certain places, one and the most considerable of which was the King's Exchequer at Westminster. The room at the Exchequer where the chests containing these stars were kept was probably called the Star Chamber, and when the Jews were expelled from the kingdom, it was applied to the use of the King's Council when sitting in their judicial capacity. That's from William Blackstone, Commentaries on the Laws of England, page 263, 1769. Now, in summary, the ruse perpetuated on myself and mankind is exposed for the mistake it is. Pure fraud ab initio ad infinitum nunc pro tunc, where it is now incumbent upon those responsible, able, for this fraud to emendatio all mistakes created via this fraud, let this mistake continue. All evidence has been collected where it is now pre-sent for you, such as my living blood ether, which is prima facie proof of stock, as well as a long form, as yet unlawful, connected to short form, proof of public fraud, in my physical presence. By commission or omission of any all crimes, one is guilty where the crime is brought into view for all to see. Emendatio, noun, Latin, historical. The power of amending and correcting abuses according to certain rules and measures. In conclusion, much knowing has been revealed to me in my own Genesis to Revelation. It is my desirous, willful wish for you to investigate the following. My original source contract is not deposited in a lawful repository. I have attached a photocopy scanned containing my receipt, BC short form, so you may further investigate and inspect the following. The Terra Cross dotted line covenant on the original source, contract covenant, which was the 19 with the 12 dots. Terra being earth, cross being heaven. My original source contract shows the birth date, star date, was never corporate jurisdiction, dotted line passed through to private, and was never meant or intended to be made public, short-form fraud, where this private matter is concerned, where my mother, father, were removed from the short form, creating an abomination, dead corporate fiction. Therefore, the United Kingdom of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, Crown Corporation, etc. et al., and later Canada, Ontario, falsely laid claims to being related or joined to the estate, myself, exposing the need for testatory capacity, creating a situation where they are benefiting from unjust enrichment via theft. The United Kingdom of England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Crown Corporation, etc. et al., and later Canada, Ontario, are with unclean hands using false documents, moved me, kidnapped me as a child into a different, unnatural jurisdiction, forcing me to pay their taxes, tariffs, plus levies, etc. et al., creating much hardship for myself and all in my life, while another parties are benefiting from unjust enrichment due to this creation of literal slavery, with the kidnapping of me from my father on June 18, 1964, 3 days after the prima facie evidence of my blood was already proved. The United Kingdom of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, Crown Corporation, etc. et al., and later Canada, Ontario, denied my easement on the land. The United Kingdom of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, Crown Corporation, etc. et al., and later Canada, Ontario, removed my guest status, not allowing me to seek damages. The United Kingdom of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, and later Canada, Ontario, falsely labeled the estate, creating a trademark, shanghaiing me into using it for identification, defrauding me and the laws and customs, forcing me to conduct trade while benefiting from unjust enrichment. I am submitting to you, or to your department, a photocopy of the birth certificate, both forms, to be used only for your inspection in this matter. Should you require the original copy, please contact me. My signet is Kate Renee, and I have my cell phone number in there as well. It's a clausula rebus sextantibus, the treaty provision stating that the treaty is binding only as long as the circumstances in existence when the treaty was signed remain substantially the same. Therefore, every contract created with their trademark is fraudulent ab initio ad infinitum nunc pro tunc. I accept the full character of creator, creditor domini, entirely, toto generi. My willful intent is peaceful. It is my wish for my guest status to be returned. It is my wish to receive your assistance in getting full restitution, emendatio. That's the long and short of it. Thank you. All references of law are from Black's Law, 9th edition, where many and further proofs are an addendum to this invocational writ. Addendum references Black's Law, 9th edition, West.